The town of Hollow Creek was a forgotten place. Time seemed to stand still there. The houses were old, their paint peeling. The streets were cracked and overgrown. The woods pressed in on all sides. At the edge of the woods stood a house. It was a grand old house once, but now it was crumbling and neglected. Its windows were dark, like empty eyes. Eliza first saw the house in a photograph. She was immediately drawn to it. She could see its beauty beneath the decay. Eliza convinced her fiancé Thomas that they should buy it. They were young and in love. They were excited to start a new life together. The house in Hollow Creek seemed like the perfect place. They moved into the house on a cold, grey day in October. The air was heavy with the smell of damp leaves and wood smoke. As they carried their belongings inside, Eliza felt a shiver run down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Eliza tried to make the house feel like home. She hung curtains and put out rugs. She filled the rooms with flowers and books. But no matter what she did, she couldn't dispel the feeling of unease that hung over the house. At night, Eliza would lie awake in bed. She would listen to the wind howling through the trees outside. She would hear strange noises coming from other parts of the house. Floorboards creaked. Doors slammed shut. Once, she could have sworn she heard a woman crying. Eliza told Thomas about the noises, but he dismissed them. He said she was just imagining things. He told her that the house was old, that's all. But Eliza knew that something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. One night, Eliza woke up suddenly. She felt a cold spot in the air next to her. She turned on the bedside lamp, but there was nothing there. Then she heard a whisper. It was a low, guttural sound, and it seemed to be coming from the closet. Eliza got out of bed and slowly opened the closet door. The closet was empty, but the whispering continued. It seemed to be coming from the back wall. Eliza pushed aside her clothes and felt around on the wall. She found a loose panel. She pried it open and discovered a small, dark room behind it. Eliza took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room was dusty and smelled of mildew. There was a single window that was boarded up. In the center of the room was a table, and on the table was a book. Eliza picked up the book and blew the dust off of it. The cover was bound in dark leather, and there was no title on it. She opened the book and began to read. The book was a diary. It was written by a woman who had lived in the house many years ago. The woman wrote about strange and disturbing things that had happened to her in the house. She wrote about hearing voices and seeing shadows. She wrote about being tormented by an evil presence. Eliza slammed the book shut. She felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She put the book back on the table and backed out of the room. She quickly nailed the panel back into place. Eliza tried to forget about the diary, but she couldn't. The words she had read haunted her. She knew that she had to find out more about the woman who had written them. One afternoon, Eliza was exploring the attic of the house. She found a trunk full of old clothes and books. At the bottom of the trunk, she found a small silver-framed portrait. The portrait was of a young woman with long flowing hair and piercing blue eyes. Eliza gasped. The woman in the portrait was the same woman who had written the diary. As Eliza stared at the portrait, she noticed something strange. The woman's eyes seemed to be following her. Eliza held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She watched in terror as the woman in the portrait slowly began to smile. Eliza screamed and dropped the portrait. It clattered to the floor. Eliza ran out of the attic and down the stairs. She ran until she couldn't run anymore. She collapsed on the floor in the hallway, her chest heaving. Eliza lay there for a long time, trying to catch her breath. When she finally stood up, she noticed that everything was quiet. Too quiet. She called out for Thomas, but there was no answer. Eliza searched the entire house, but Thomas was gone. He had vanished without a trace. Eliza never saw Thomas again. She never found out what happened to him. Eliza left the house in Hollow Creek, but she could never escape the memory of what had happened there. Some say that Thomas ran off, unable to handle the creepy occurrences. Others say that the house claimed him like it had claimed others before. The house still stands at the edge of the woods, a crumbling monument to its dark and troubled past. And the people of Hollow Creek still whisper about the young woman who disappeared within its walls.